When people hear the phrase, 3 places every woman wants you to touch, their mind goes to one place and one place only. You know what I'm talking about. They smirk, they giggle, they get uncomfortable, or they get curious. But I want to tell you something. The most powerful touches a woman craves are not physical at all. They are deeper. They are the kind of touches that don't fade after the lights go off or the night is over. They are the ones that leave fingerprints on her life, not just her skin. The first place is her mind. Touch her mind, and you wake up her world. Too many people underestimate how hungry a woman's mind can be. We live in a culture that celebrates how she looks, how she dresses, how she fits into a frame, but what about how she thinks? What about the worlds she builds in her imagination, the questions she wrestles with at 2 a.m., the way she wants to stretch and grow beyond the boxes she's been handed? When you touch a woman's mind, you don't just flatter her with empty lines. You listen to her ideas like they matter, because they do. You ask questions and stay long enough to hear the real answer, not just the surface reply. You share stories, not just facts, because her mind doesn't want to be filled like a filing cabinet. It wants to be sparked like a flame. That spark is what she remembers. Long after the conversation ends, she'll replay the way you made her feel curious, alive, challenged. And let me tell you, a woman who feels intellectually seen becomes unstoppable. The second place every woman wants you to touch is her heart. Not the Hallmark card heart, not the Valentine's Day balloon heart. I mean the heart that beats under all the armor she's had to wear. The heart that has been disappointed, overlooked, stretched thin, yet still shows up to give and give and give. Touching her heart is about giving her the rare gift of safety. When a woman feels safe, she blooms. She doesn't have to shrink herself to fit someone's comfort. She doesn't have to apologize for being too much, or too sensitive, or too ambitious. Touching her heart means seeing her humanity and honoring it. It's in the way you say, "I hear you," and mean it. It's in the way you don't dismiss her dreams as silly or her fears as irrational. It's in the way you stand with her, not because she's perfect, but because she's real. And here's the truth. Women have been told to give their hearts freely, even when the world hasn't handled them carefully. So when you show up with gentleness and honesty, when you hold space for her to just be angry, joyful, exhausted, inspired, you're not just touching her heart. You're repairing something generations deep. You're showing her that her heart doesn't always have to be a battlefield. Sometimes it can finally rest. The third place every woman wants you to touch is her soul. Now this one is different. Touching her soul isn't about words. It's not about gestures. It's about presence. Her soul is the part of her that knows who she really is when nobody's watching. It's the compass that points her toward meaning, even when life feels meaningless. And to touch that part of her, you have to be brave enough to bring your own soul to the table. Touching her soul means you don't just meet her where she is. You meet her in the depth of who she is becoming. You remind her that she is more than her titles, her roles, her to-do lists, her labels. You call her back to her power when she forgets it. You see her light, even when she can't see it herself. And here's the secret. A woman's soul responds to truth. Not polished, pretty truth, but raw, imperfect, lived truth. When you share your own struggles, your own doubts, your own messy becoming, you touch her soul. Because her soul doesn't want a performance, it wants connection. And when you connect soul to soul, you create something no surface-level charm could ever compete with. Mind, heart, soul. Those are the 3 places every woman wants you to touch. And when you do, you don't just win her attention for a moment. You honor her existence for a lifetime. You don't just create sparks, you create fire. A fire that warms, that guides, that transforms. Now, I know some of you are still thinking about the physical side. And let me tell you something. When you've touched a woman's mind, heart, and soul first, every other touch that follows will carry a depth you can't fake. Because real intimacy is not about how close your bodies can get. It's about how close your truths can meet. So the next time you want to know where to touch a woman, remember this. Start with her mind, challenge her, inspire her, awaken her. Then move to her heart. Protect it, honor it, celebrate it, and finally reach for her soul. That's where the magic happens. That's where she becomes not just someone you know, but someone whose life you have impacted forever. That is how you touch a woman in the 3 places she truly longs to be touched. Not because she's fragile, not because she needs you to complete her, but because she deserves to be met in the fullness of who she is. And when you can do that, you don't just touch her, you transform her. And in the process, you transform yourself. You ever notice how people get uncomfortable when you bring up what women really want? Everyone thinks they already know. They've read the magazines, they've scrolled through the feeds, they've seen the listicles promising 10 tricks to win her over. But let me tell you, none of those tricks matter if you can't reach these 3 places. You can have all the flowers, the fancy dinners, the smooth lines, but if you don't know how to touch her mind, her heart, and her soul, all you've got is a show. And a show without substance ends the moment the curtain drops. Let me tell you a story. I once met a woman who told me that the loneliest she had ever felt was when she was married. Imagine that. Sharing a home, sharing a life, sharing a bed, and still feeling invisible. Why? Because he never touched her mind. He never asked about her dreams, never challenged her ideas, never wanted to explore the wild, endless landscapes of her thoughts. He touched her body every day, but her mind unseen, her heart ignored, her soul untouched. And so she lived in a marriage that looked perfect from the outside, but felt hollow on the inside. That's what happens when we mistake presence for connection. Now, on the other side, I've seen what happens when a woman's mind is truly engaged. When someone takes the time to say, "Tell me more about that," or "Why do you think that way?" Her eyes light up, her words flow, and suddenly she's not just existing, she's expanding. She's unfolding, and that glow is not from a compliment about her hair or her outfit. It's from being recognized as a thinker, as a creator, as a force. And let's talk about the heart again, because this one gets complicated. Women are told from such a young age that their hearts are dangerous. Too soft, too emotional, too irrational. So what do? They build walls. They learn how to protect themselves. They say, "I don't need anyone." They wear independence like armor because it's safer than admitting they still long to be seen, cherished, valued. So when you come along and think you can bypass her heart with a joke or a gift or a clever move, she sees right through it. What she's waiting for is someone brave enough to sit with her in her truth. Not just the polished Instagram truth, but the messy, vulnerable, human truth. And you know what's wild? Touching a woman's heart doesn't require grand gestures. It's not about writing poetry on mountaintops or singing ballads in the rain. It's the small things that "I got this" when she's overwhelmed, that "I'm listening" when she's doubting herself, that "you don't have to do this alone" when the weight of the world feels too heavy. That's how you touch a heart. Quietly, consistently, deeply. Now the soul. Let's slow down here, because the soul is the most mysterious of all. You can't buy your way into a woman's soul. You can't charm your way in. You can't even logic your way in. The soul opens only to authenticity, and that's why so many people miss it, because authenticity is terrifying. It means dropping the mask. It means showing the cracks. It means letting her see the parts of you that you'd rather keep hidden. But when you're willing to stand in your truth, You give her permission to stand in hers, and that's when soul meets soul. That's when you're not just two people passing time. You're two people touching eternity. Have you ever had a conversation so real, so raw, that when it was over, you couldn't even explain it, but you knew you'd been changed? That's what happens when you touch a woman's soul, and once you've been there, nothing else compares. Think about it. The world constantly tells women they're too much and not enough at the same time. Too loud, too quiet. Too emotional, too detached. Too ambitious, too lazy. And in that storm of mixed messages, what every woman really wants is to be touched in the places where she is more than enough. Her mind, her heart, her soul. Because when those three places are touched, she doesn't just feel valued, she feels alive. Now I want you to picture something. Imagine a woman walking into a room. She's stunning, yes, but that's not what stops you. What stops you is the energy around her, the way her words carry weight, the way she listens with her whole being, the way she stands in her truth. That's a woman whose mind has been challenged, whose heart has been honored, whose soul has been ignited. And you can feel it without her saying a word, because when a woman has been touched in those three places, she radiates. She doesn't chase validation, she attracts respect. She doesn't settle for surface, she demands depth. And here's the part people don't always want to hear. This is not just about what men should do for women. This is about how all of us, as human beings, need to learn to touch each other in ways that matter. Imagine friendships where we actually see each other's minds. Imagine families where hearts are safe. Imagine communities where souls are honored. Do you see how everything changes? This isn't just personal, it's universal. But let me bring it back to women, because that's who we're talking about today. Every woman you meet carries stories you can't see. Stories of times she was overlooked, underestimated, silenced. Stories of moments when her brilliance was dismissed, her tenderness was exploited, her spirit was crushed. So when you come into her life and you choose to touch her mind, her heart, her soul, you are not just connecting with her. You are healing her, you are rewriting the narrative, you are saying, you are not invisible, you are not too much, you are not alone. And that is a gift beyond measure. Some of you might be sitting there wondering, but how do I do this? How do I touch these places? The answer is simpler than you think and harder than you expect. You do it by showing up. You do it by paying attention. You do it by choosing depth over distraction. When she shares an idea, you don't brush it off, you ask more. When she shares a piece of her heart, you don't minimize it. You honor it. When she shows you her soul, you don't run. You stay, and yes, it takes courage, because when you touch a woman in these ways, she will remember. She will remember you not for what you gave her, but for how you made her feel, and that memory is not something you can fake. It's not something you can force. It's something you earn, moment by moment, presence by presence. So let me say it one more time, because repetition is power. The three places every woman wants you to touch are her mind, her heart, and her soul. Not because she is needy, not because she is fragile, but because she is human. Because she is complex, because she is worthy of being seen in the fullness of who she is. And when you can meet her there, when you can honor her there, you don't just touch her, you transform her. And in that transformation, you transform yourself. You know what's interesting? The most unforgettable moments in a woman's life are rarely about what someone bought her or where someone took her. They're about how someone made her feel. She might forget the details of the date, the words of the text, the size of the gift, but she will never forget the moment her mind was sparked, her heart was softened, her soul was seen. Those are the moments that stay, that echo, that shape her. I remember speaking with a woman who told me the story of her grandmother. Her grandmother had been married for 50 years, and when people asked her what made the marriage last, she didn't say, he bought me diamonds, or he took me on vacations. She said he never stopped making me think. He never stopped making me feel. He never stopped reminding me who I was. That's it. Mind, heart, soul, half a century built on those three places. Imagine the strength of that. Imagine the power. And yet here we are, in a world that still tries to convince us that touching the surface is enough. A compliment on her looks, a quick gesture, a shallow conversation. But a woman is not a surface. She is layers upon layers. She is galaxies, and when you only touch the surface, you miss the universe. Think about the last time someone really touched your mind. Didn't it feel electric? Didn't it feel like your brain woke up from a nap it didn't even know it was taking? That's what women want too, to be seen as thinkers, as visionaries, as people who have something to say. Because when you dismiss a woman's mind, you are not just insulting her intelligence, you are denying her humanity. And when you honor it, when you value it, when you stretch it, you're saying, I see you, I respect you, I believe in you. And that is priceless. Now let's be real about the heart. The heart is fragile, but it is also fierce. A woman's heart has carried generations of struggle and still keeps beating. It has been broken and still finds ways to love. It has been dismissed and still refuses to go quiet. So when you touch her heart, understand the privilege of it. Understand that you're not just holding an organ of flesh, you're holding history. You're holding the echoes of her mother's sacrifices, her grandmother's dreams, her own battles. And if you handle it with care, you're not just loving her. You're honoring all the women who came before her. I once heard a story of a woman who said she finally fell in love not when someone swept her off her feet, but when someone sat with her in silence while she cried. No words, no solutions, just presence. That was it. That was the moment she knew her heart was safe. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? A place where our hearts can stop performing and just be. A place where we can break without being abandoned, where we can rejoice without being envied, where we can rest without being judged. That's the gift of touching the heart, and then the soul. Oh, the soul is the one that will undo you. Because once you've touched a woman's soul, there's no going back. You've reached the core of her, and the soul is not impressed by status or money or appearance. The soul responds only to truth. It responds to vulnerability, to integrity, to presence. That's why so many people struggle to touch it, because they're too busy trying to impress rather than trying to connect. But imagine for a second that you let yourself be real. Imagine you admitted your fears, your failures, your hopes, your contradictions. And she met you there in that realness and said, "Me too." That's soul to soul. That's the moment where the masks drop and two people finally meet. And let me tell you, when a woman's soul feels that, she will never forget it. You become part of her story, not because of what you did, but because of who you were willing to be. Now let's pause and think about what happens when none of these places are touched. When a woman's mind is ignored, her heart dismissed, her soul overlooked. What happens? She shrinks, she questions her worth, she learns to hide her brilliance, she learns to silence her voice. And the world loses something precious, because every time a woman dims herself to survive, we all lose the light she could have shone. But when her mind is engaged, when her heart is held, when her soul is honored, she rises, she expands. She becomes unstoppable. And when a woman rises, she doesn't rise alone. She lifts everyone around her. That's why this matters. It's not just about romance or intimacy. It's about humanity. It's about building a culture where women don't have to beg to be seen, where they don't have to fight to be respected, where they don't have to harden themselves just to survive. It's about creating a world where every woman is touched in the places that matter most. And let's be honest, touching these places takes work. It takes effort. It takes slowing down in a world that's always rushing. It takes listening in a world that's always talking. It takes depth in a world that worships the shallow. But isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it to know that you've connected with someone in a way that changes both of you? Isn't it worth it to know that you've left fingerprints not on her body, but on her being? I want you to think of a woman you admire. Maybe it's your partner, your friend, your mother, your sister, your mentor. Now ask yourself, have you touched her mind lately? Have you challenged her to dream bigger, think bolder, expand further? Have you touched her heart? Have you reminded her she is worthy, not for what she does, but for who she is? Have you touched her soul? Have you honored the deepest, truest, most authentic part of her? If not, then maybe this is your invitation. Because the world doesn't need more empty gestures. The world needs more people who are brave enough to touch where it counts. And here's the beautiful irony. When you touch a woman in these places, you discover your own. You find your own mind growing sharper, your own heart growing softer, your own soul growing deeper. Because connection is never one way. When you pour into her, you find yourself filled. When you honor her, you find yourself strengthened. When you see her, you find yourself seen. That's the miracle of it. So no, the 3 places every woman wants you to touch are not about physicality. They are about humanity. They are about meeting her where she truly lives. They are about touching the places that can't be photographed, can't be bought, can't be faked. They are about touching the places that last. Let me ask you something. What's the point of all our connection if it never goes deeper than the surface? We scroll, we swipe, we like, we comment. We skim each other's lives in 10-second flashes, and then we wonder why we feel empty. Because connection without depth is noise. A woman doesn't want more noise. She wants resonance. She wants the kind of touch that makes her pause, the kind of exchange that lingers in her spirit long after the moment has ended. That's what makes life feel alive, and the truth is, so many women walk around starving for that, starving to have their ideas taken seriously, starving for someone to say your voice matters, starving for someone to look them in the eye and not see what they can take from them, but who they actually are. And it's heartbreaking because these are not luxuries. These are basic human needs being seen, being valued, being known. Yet too often women are asked to settle for less. Too often they are told that their worth comes from appearance, from pleasing, from serving. And so they're touched on the outside, but not on the inside. That's why the mind is so important. Imagine a world where every girl grew up being told her ideas could change the world. Imagine classrooms where her hand was called on not out of pity but out of respect. Imagine workplaces where her perspective was not a checkbox but a necessity. Imagine relationships where her thoughts were not a threat but a treasure. That's what happens when we learn how to touch the mind. We expand not just one woman's potential, but the potential of all of us, because when a woman's mind is alive, she is not just thinking for herself, she is thinking for the generations after her. And then the heart. The heart is where women often hide the most. Because let's be real, the world hasn't always been kind to the heart of a woman. Too many times, she's been told she's crazy for feeling, weak for caring, naive for loving. So she builds walls. But here's the secret. Those walls are not because she doesn't want to love. They're because she loves so much that she has to protect it. So when you touch her heart with gentleness, when you touch it with patience, when you touch it with honesty, you're not just breaking down walls. You're showing her it's safe to open again. I think of a story I once heard about a woman who had been through heartbreak after heartbreak. By the time she met someone new, she was closed off, armored, skeptical. But one night, she confessed something she thought was silly, a childhood dream she never shared with anyone. She expected to be laughed at. Instead, he looked her in the eye and said, "I think you should do it." That was it. No grand speech, no dramatic gesture, just belief, and in that moment her heart cracked open, because sometimes touching the heart is not about fixing or rescuing, it's about believing. And belief is one of the most powerful touches of all. Now the soul, let's sit with this one, because the soul is where all masks fall away. You can't fake soul, you can't script it, you can't package it for social media. The soul is the part of a woman that is most sacred, most eternal, most true. And to touch it, you must bring yours, not the polished version of you, not the curated version, but the real version. The one that has been broken, rebuilt, humbled, and still standing. Because the soul responds to truth, like a flower responds to sunlight. And when you dare to be honest, her soul leans toward you. I'll never forget hearing a woman say, "The moment I knew I loved him was the moment he admitted he didn't have it all together." See that? Not the moment he impressed her, not the moment he wowed her, but the moment he was vulnerable, because vulnerability is the language of the soul. And when you speak it, her soul will answer. So many people ask, how do I keep her attention? How do I keep her love? The answer is simple and impossible at the same time. Touch her where it matters. Because once you've touched a woman's mind, heart, and soul, she is not with you because she's bored, or because she's afraid, or because she has no other options. She is with you because she is alive with you. She is expanding with you. She is becoming more of herself with you. And that is the most powerful bond of all. But let me flip it on you for a second. This isn't just about how to show up for women. It's about how women need to show up for themselves. Because too many times, women wait for someone else to come along and touch those places, when in reality, you can begin by touching your own. You can challenge your own mind, nurture your own heart, honor your own soul. And when you do, when you walk into a room having already done that work, you stop asking who will see me, and start declaring, I see me. And that changes everything, because a woman who has touched herself in those places is magnetic. She draws people who are capable of meeting her there. And isn't that the point? To create relationships, friendships, communities where mind, heart, and soul are the standard, not the exception. Where women don't have to beg for depth, but can expect it. Where they don't have to hide their brilliance, but can shine it. Where they don't have to dim their hearts to survive, but can let them blaze. I think about the legacy of women who have come before us. The writers, the leaders, the mothers, the dreamers. They all carried minds that were bursting with ideas, hearts that were overflowing with love, souls that were burning with fire. And too many of them lived in times when nobody touched those places. Too many of them died unheard, unseen, uncelebrated. But we have the chance to change that. We have the chance to be the generation that says no more. No more silencing, no more dismissing, no more overlooking. From now on, we touch the mind. From now on, we honor the heart. From now on, we meet the soul. Because at the end of the day, that's all any of us really want. To be seen in the fullness of who we are. To be met in the places that matter. To leave this world knowing that someone at some point touched the deepest parts of us and said, "You are enough. You are powerful. You are loved. Let's be honest about something." The reason so many relationships, so many friendships, so many connections fall flat is not because people don't care. It's because they don't know how to go deeper. They get stuck at the surface. They get comfortable with routine, with small talk, with autopilot. And then they wonder why the spark fades, why the connection weakens, why the love feels empty. But when you touch someone in their mind, their heart, their soul, there is no autopilot. Every moment feels alive. Every interaction feels like an exchange of energy. That's why it lasts. That's why it matters. A woman doesn't want you to just show up in her life. She wants you to wake her up in her life. She wants you to be the reason she thinks bigger, feels deeper, believes stronger. And that doesn't take perfection. That doesn't take a flawless plan. It takes intention. It takes presence. It takes choosing to pay attention when the world is full of distractions. That's the real test. Can you quiet your phone, your ego, your noise long enough to actually hear her? Because when you do, when you give her the gift of your full attention, that's when you touch the places that matter. You see, too many people mistake attention for presence. They think scrolling through her pictures, leaving a comment, giving a quick compliment is enough. But that's attention. Presence is different. Presence is sitting across from her and seeing the way her eyes change when she talks about something she loves. Presence is noticing the pause in her voice when she's holding back a truth. Presence is saying, "Tell me more," and staying until she's said it all. Presence is not about being around her. It's about being with her. That's what touches the mind, the heart, the soul. I once spoke with a woman who told me the most unforgettable thing anyone had ever said to her was, "You don't have to explain yourself." Imagine that. Out of all the gifts she'd been given, out of all the lines she'd heard, what stayed with her was someone saying she was enough without justification. Because her whole life she'd been told to prove herself, to defend her choices, to explain her feelings. And in that one moment, someone touched her heart by giving her freedom. That's how simple it can be. That's how powerful it is. And let's talk about the mind again, because this one is not just about intellect, it's about curiosity. A woman wants her mind touched by someone who is genuinely curious about her. Not curious as in interrogating, but curious as in fascinated. Curious as in, I want to know how you see the world. I want to learn from you. I want to explore your perspective. Because curiosity is respect in action. Curiosity says, I believe you have something worth teaching me. And when a woman feels that, she lights up. Because she knows she is not being tolerated. She is being valued. Now the heart. The heart is where trust lives. And trust is fragile. Once it breaks, it is not easy to put back together. That's why so many women carry scars on their hearts. They've been told promises that were never kept, heard words that were never lived, been given love that came with conditions. And still, they keep hoping. That's the strength of a woman's heart. It keeps hoping even after it's been hurt. So when you come into her life and you choose to be consistent, you choose to be honest, you choose to keep showing up even when it's inconvenient, you're not just winning her trust. You're healing something in her that she might not even talk about. You're proving that her hope was not wasted. And then the soul is where love becomes legacy. Because when you touch a woman's soul, you don't just affect her. You affect everyone she touches. You affect the way she parents, the way she teaches, the way she leads, the way she creates. That's the ripple effect. When a woman's soul is alive, she spreads that aliveness everywhere she goes. She becomes a force, a light, a source of strength. And you don't have to control it. You don't have to own it. You don't have to claim it. You just get to witness it, to honor it, to be grateful you were there when the fire caught. Think about the women who changed history. They weren't just beautiful faces. They were minds that challenged systems. They were hearts that cared when others stayed silent. They were souls that refused to give up. That's what happens when a woman is touched in the places that matter. She changes not just her own life, but the lives of everyone who comes after her. And here's the thing, this isn't just for lovers. This isn't just for partners. This is for all of us. If you're a friend, touch her mind, her heart, her soul. If you're a parent, touch your daughter's mind, her heart, her soul. If you're a leader, touch the minds, hearts, and souls of the women you lead. Because every time you do, you plant something that will grow far beyond what you can see. So many people want to leave a legacy. They want to be remembered. They want to know they mattered. Let me tell you, the way to leave a legacy is not through wealth or status or fame. It's through the lives you touch. And the deepest way to touch a life is through the mind, the heart, and the soul. Everything else fades. But that stays, that endures. I want you to imagine yourself years from now, looking back on your life. What do you want people to say about you? That you were impressive, or that you were present, that you had achievements, or that you made them feel alive, that you touched the surface, or that you touched the essence, because those choices are being made right now. With every conversation, every relationship, every interaction, you are deciding whether you will leave fingerprints on the surface or on the soul. And women, hear me when I say this. Don't settle for less. Don't settle for people who only touch your surface. Don't settle for people who only see your body, your status, your role. Demand the ones who see your mind. Demand the ones who honor your heart. Demand the ones who awaken your soul, because you are too vast, too powerful, too extraordinary to be touched only on the outside. You deserve to be met in the fullness of who you are. And for anyone listening, if you remember nothing else, remember this. The 3 places every woman wants you to touch are not about possession. They are about presence. They are not about control. They are about connection. They are not about taking. They are about giving. Mind, heart, soul, that is where the real magic happens. That is where life begins. So here we are. After all this, after talking about the mind, the heart, and the soul, what does it all really mean? It means that women are not puzzles to be solved, not trophies to be won, not checklists to complete. Women are whole, complex, brilliant, layered beings. And when you approach them with only shallow gestures, with only surface-level charm, you don't just shortchange them. You shortchange yourself. Because the greatest joy you will ever know is not in touching the outside of someone's life, but in touching the essence of it. Touching a woman's mind means you are brave enough to enter into her thoughts and let her challenge you, inspire you, even disrupt you. It means you are humble enough to learn from her, curious enough to listen, and wise enough to realize that the spark of an idea shared between 2 people can be more intimate than any physical touch. When you touch her mind, you show her that her intelligence is not just tolerated, but celebrated. Touching her heart means you are strong enough to handle her softness, steady enough to handle her storms, and tender enough to remind her that vulnerability is not weakness, but strength. It means you don't just love her when she's easy to love, but you love her when she's human, because that's what the heart really wants, to be seen in its wholeness, not just in its highlight reel. When you touch her heart, you give her the courage to keep it open in a world that often tells her to shut it down. And touching her soul, oh, that's the deepest. That's when you are real enough to bring your own truth to the table. That's when you strip away the masks, the games, the performances, and you meet her as one soul to another. When you touch her soul, you are not just building a relationship, you are building something eternal. You are creating a connection that outlives the moment, a connection that shapes the way she sees herself and the way she moves through the world. That is not small, that is not casual, that is sacred. So what does this add up to? It adds up to a challenge to stop underestimating women, a challenge to stop settling for surface, a challenge to rise to the level of depth that real love, real respect, real connection requires. Because when you dare to touch the mind, the heart, and the soul, you discover the kind of intimacy, the kind of power, the kind of transformation that can change not just one life, but every life connected to it. And that's the truth. The 3 places every woman wants you to touch are not about ownership. They're not about conquest. They are about presence, respect, and love. And if you can rise to that, if you can honor that, if you can live that, then you will not just have touched a woman. You will have touched humanity itself.